Okay, I wrote so many things down. I have 1,000 questions for you. So let's see how fast we can, not fast, but let's see how deep we can get in. Okay, so you just said systems. What do you specifically have for, especially with managing so many businesses with different types of industries too? Like they're not standard SOPs where you're like, okay, this is what we do. How did you get good at that? Or do you have somebody else that does that for you?
So some of those companies I didn't start, like the merchant processing one. I now own that business. I bought into it, and
Okay.
so it had great infrastructure already in place. It was weak where I'm strong, and so back to the Gary Vaynerchuk,
Hmm.
and even Ty Lopez. He was just talking about this on one of his recent periscopes. Is there are businesses that are out there, and this is great for your audience. I'm gonna actually go through the whole analogy real quick because
All
this is a
right.
great action step. Uh, when it comes to real estate investing, very few people buy raw land, knock the trees down, then bring in all these grading machines to make it flat, to then lay a foundation, to then build a house to sell it. Some people do that, but very few do. Most people, like me, buy an existing house that's beat up or not working well, make it beautiful again, and sell it for a profit. And when it comes to owning a business, so many people think they need to invent something and build it from the ground up. But when you look at real estate, such few people do that. And when it comes to business ownership, why don't more people find existing businesses that just are weak or not doing well in an area that you're strong in, enter into that company and negotiate either an equity position or a profit split or both, and say, hey, you suck at sales right now, right? You've got a great concept. So one of the software companies I invest in, not to stereotype, but the guy's got real thick glasses. He's super, super intellectual, hard to even have a conversation with because he's so deep. Couldn't sell anything. He couldn't sell water to someone in the desert, right? And I understand sales, so entered into that company to help boost. And in exchange for my services, got an equity position. I had to give some cash too. And so one of the things I do is I insert myself into businesses that already have an infrastructure that are struggling in areas I know I'm good at. And that's such a huge tip to your audience is, people want to figure out how to pursue becoming a millionaire or a multimillionaire. And so they're like, what am I going to do and build from the ground up, Mark Zuckerberg style? Well, that's an option. But have you ever considered finding a business that's already established? That person's put in all their own money and all their risk and has worked their butt off to get a patent if needed, or whatever their industry requires to actually have income, right? And to see, well, man, you're terrible at this, or this. I kick butt at those things, and putting in some cash or even just negotiating. Here's another way that I've done this is to say, hey, Jaime, you're making $1 million a year. I'm going to bring your business to $3 million a year. So here's what I'll do. From the 1 to 1.5 million, that's all yours. You're going to get an extra $500,000 a year from me. But from the 1.5 to the 3, we split it 50-50. And
Hmm.
now you're stoked because at the end of the day, you went from 1 million to 2.25 million. And I'm stoked because now I'm making 750 grand a year on a business I put zero money into, didn't think of
It's
and
like
didn't do anything
investing, but
to.
in the speaking world in general, you're like, oh, and then I just get a percentage depending on how well I do.
Yeah, if I
Which,
go to the event and fall on my face, I'll make very little money, right? And if I go to an event and knock it out of the park, I've had events where I've made over $70,000 at a one event because of what sold. And so, 70 grand is not a lot of money, but if you do that 20 times a year, that's $1.4 million. And well, that's not bad. And it's worth me taking a flight to show up somewhere to teach, which I love doing anyway, to then at the end of the year have 7 figures to show for it. So but I'll also, before I don't want to be misleading, I've been doing this. I've been
yes,
speaking
thank
for
you.
like 8 years, and I haven't been paid like this until like the last 3 years. For the first 5 years of speaking, it was always free. And a lot of times I paid to be there to master this craft. It was like a hobby. And so someone would like give me a chance to be on their stage. I would pay for my flight to get out there. I would pay for my hotel to be there. And I would not charge anything to be on stage. It would literally cost me money after flight and hotel, but I was on stage with these big names and speaking for free and mastering my craft. Man, I've watched like 400 hours of Tony Robbins, not listening to what he's saying, but listening to what he's doing, how he creates frames and how he leads people and like everything. It's pacing and leading, like all the stuff he does, I pick up on it and I just rip him off and do the same thing. Right. That's what I call it,
Heck
R&D.
yeah.
You know what R&D stands for, right?
No, go ahead.
Rip off and duplicate, right?